questo del vestuario. La interpretazione sempre negativa, nunca positiva.
Welcome to Siempre Positivo. It's as you were at the top of LaLiga after hard-fought wins for Barcelona and Real Madrid this weekend. Barça beating Leganés 1-0 and Madrid Alaves by the same scoreline. It means Barça still lead La Liga by 4 points, but there's now just 7 games to go. I'm Sam Marsden, joined by Rick Sharma. Rick, how are you?
Busy day, busy week, busy month.
Yeah, I think everyone is busy this week. Everyone in the... Although I don't know, some people might be off. It's because it's Easter week, isn't it? So I don't know if that affects other people, but obviously people may have noticed that I've not introduced Tony. Tony's not here. Tony's obviously busy today as well. Couldn't find the time to squeeze him in. And normally what we would have done is we would have waited. But it's a busy week for Barca as well because they're Borussia Dortmund on Tuesday night. And if we delayed getting this podcast out, it would have been the Dortmund game before you know it. We
come back to Barcelona. We have recovery. We go to Dortmund the next day. It's like it is.
Yeah, Hansi Flick joining the podcast. I thought you could do better impressions than that.
Yeah, it wasn't the best. I need to like hear a little bit of Hansi before like getting the tone right.
Yeah, I think we're gonna have some complaints from some German listeners.
Sorry to them.
So yeah,
sorry to you. Sorry to everyone. Let you all down.
Back to the weekend then. Barcelona 1-0 win away at Leganés. That's 180 minutes against Leganés this season, and they haven't scored a goal against them because the goal was scored by Jorge Sanz. An own goal in the second half. Another really tough game for Barcelona, where the big highlight was the 3 points and another step towards the La Liga title, as many of the sort of players commenting afterwards. The old trope, the old stereotype, these are the sort of wins that win you titles, go into places like relegation threatened Leganés and winning 1-0 when you're perhaps not completely at your best in terms of physically or sort of mentality at this stage of the season, because you're trying to manage different games, and obviously it's impossible not to think ahead and think about what's to come when you're playing some of these teams. And it was a slog, both for Barca and perhaps for the viewers. There weren't loads of chances for either team. There was an early chance for Leganés actually, and a save from Wojciech Szczesny. Rabah getting in down
Wojciech
Szczesny. Rabah getting in down the left, cutting back for Almeida, who had looked like he should have scored. I don't know if that's fair to say, but Szczesny made
big chance.
Szczesny made the save. There was another brilliant piece of defending, not from Szczesny but from Rafinha at the end of the half as Lega broke. He absolutely sprinted back to get his toe on a cross which was destined for Rabah, who would have been one-on-one with Szczesny to prevent what I would have said was, there's no such thing as a certain goal, I guess, is there? But a very, 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 very good chance for Lega just before the break. Early in the second half, Barca took the lead. Flick made he made a change at half-time. Frankie de Jong came on. He'd been rested. Eric Garcia came into midfield. De Jong came on for Araujo, who Flick later said had a slight sort of felt something in his quadricep, nothing serious, but enough to take him off instead of Eric at half-time, De Jong coming on. And Barca scored quite quickly in the second half. I should have mentioned probably that by this point, Gerard Martin was on, because the big setback for Barca in the first half was Alejandro Balde going off with a knock. We'll come on to that later, I'm sure. Gerard Martin won the ball back early in the second half into Rafinha's sort of feet. He played forward, played across, and Sanz turned it into his own goal to give Barca the lead, and that was that. The most notable moment then came in the 92nd minute, and the moment which took the headlines after the game. Probably because it was a pivotal moment, but also I think because of recency bias. Obviously, I've mentioned there were other moments of defending, but the Inigo Martinez tackle on Munir El Haddadi, an absolutely fantastic tackle in the 92nd minute, when it looked like Munir would perhaps get in and get a shot away and perhaps steal a point which would have shook up the La Liga title race. But Martinez was there the day after Flick had sort of singled him out without being asked about him, to praise his role this season. And after the game, Flick as well spoke about that tackle being like a goal. It was celebrated like a goal. And yeah, probably as big a moment as the Barca goal, Rick.
Yeah, it was a vital interception by Inigo Martinez, or tackle, I suppose. Which, for me, this is the sort of game that Tony would be quite happy with, and that Leganés had very few chances, just the one that you mentioned in the first half, Altimira really, and then that kind of chance at the end. But there wasn't allowed to be a chance by Inigo Martinez making that tackle. and he would have loved the result. For me, I didn't really enjoy this game. It was a pretty tough watch. I kind of agree with the cliche that Eric Garcia said and that other people said, as you pointed out, which is this is the kind of win that titles are made of, the kind of game that you probably won't remember, apart from unless things go wrong. When you look at, maybe it went wrong because Balde got injured. That could end up, hopefully not, being the big takeaway from the game. Depends on how Gerard Martin or other players can do in his absence going forward. But whatever, another game ticked off the list. A chance maybe to rest a couple of players against Dortmund and then knuckle down for the next wave of matches. Yeah,
I kind of think this game should be judged in isolation for what it was. Flick didn't make loads of changes. He spoke about that after the game. I think people perhaps thought he may make more changes. He said he wanted to stick with the bulk of the team which beat Dortmund. So the only changes he made were to bring in Eric Garcia for Frenkie de Jong and Ronald Araujo for Pau Cubarsí. Some of the complaints, or some of the questions more than complaints after the game, focused on, Barca, as I mentioned in the introduction, they lost 1-0 at home to Leganés earlier in the season. Perhaps against Getafe, certainly away, they struggled a little bit. And just about this idea that Barca against these sort of teams don't necessarily have the answers just yet. Do you think that's fair, Rick, or do you think this is just a one-off game? I don't know how you would analyse that. I mean, we spoke about it a lot, how Barca obviously are better in spaces, certainly players like Rafinha. But do you think that's still a criticism? Obviously, they're 24 games, unbeaten now in 2025. So they're finding ways to win games. And if anything, that's perhaps more. You're not going to win every game 4-0, are you?
No, although they are making a good effort at trying to do that. I think it is fair to criticise for this because at the end of the day, we're not saying this Barca is the best team that's ever been created. They're a very good team and they've been brilliant at times this season, but they're a team that still needs to work on a few things. And one of those things is finding a way through defences like this away from home who want to shut you out and shut you down and waste time. And I found it quite funny, actually, that Leganés were complaining about time wasting at the end. And the coach was sort of kicking off with Flick, and when actually they'd obviously been doing it through more or less the whole first game at Barcelona and the first half of this game until Barca found the breakthrough. So I think that that is something Barca can work on. One of the ways they can do that is by having that creative player in the number 10 that's more creative than Fermin Lopez or Gavi, which is of course Dani Olmo, who, as we're going to talk about, is back from injury. Not that Dani Olmo, as we pointed out before he even signed for the club, is someone that you can rely on being there for the whole season. But he does have the quality to unpick the locks that this Barca is going to come up against on the road.
Yeah. I mean, Fermin almost scored a goal of... Is it exaggerated? It would have been a goal of the season contender, the way he brought the ball down in the tight space inside the box, beat two players and then shot wide.
Yeah, it would have been brilliant. It would have been brilliant. It's just a shame that he didn't quite have the finish, and his finishing hasn't been there for a good part of this season. But I mean, to take nothing away from him, because that was a brilliant sort of piece of both control and technique and tenacity to get through on the edge of the box. I also had the feeling that he never quite had anything under control there, but he managed to get his way through.
Yeah, no, I thought he had it under control. I can't remember who the Leganés defender was, but appealing for high foot at first on the replay. It was nowhere near a sort of being given as a high foot. But yeah, that's one of the things, like you say, Dani Olmo coming back is one of those players you'd think would be able to help in these type of games. Perhaps something, I mean, like you say, this is a Barca side that has already far exceeded expectations, and if that's sort of the one thing that we're sort of looking at, obviously there's going to be things that they need to improve at the end of this season, even if they do go on and win everything, because this time last year they hadn't won anything. We were talking about what they needed to do to have a good season, and they've already ticked all those boxes. So it's, there's going to be games. There's always going to be games in the season. No matter if you're the best Barca team of all time, there are going to be games, whether due to the opponents, whether due to your schedule, whether due to injuries, whether due to all of the above with a mix of rotations. There are going to be games when you A, drop points, or B, suffer a little bit more and win ugly. And I think that's perhaps, obviously you need to work on improving how you deal with time wasters, teams that sit back, whether it be Getafe, Leganés, whoever it is. But you also need to see it as a strength now that you've won that game, when at the beginning of January you drew at Getafe, when in December you lost to Leganés at home. It shows some sort of improvement, I guess, that they're now winning these games.
Yeah. Definite improvement. I mean, it's the Barca we saw for those 2 months, November, December, is it's just completely unrecognisable from the team that we're seeing now. Even when they struggle to create that much against Leganés, they just look. I mean, it's a confidence thing, isn't it? The mentality is there now that they doubted themselves. I think. I mean, to go back to that period, I always thought it was a come down after beating Bayern and Real Madrid and being on top of the world and thinking they were by far the best team around at that point after those two victories. And I think they took their eye off the ball a little bit, and the suffering in those months has helped them refocus, and the winter break and coming back, and we've seen that with the unbeaten run they've been on now. It's fantastic. It's the longest ever unbeaten start to a calendar year, which isn't that great of a stat, because what does calendar year mean in football? But it's the best start Barca ever had to a year. Maybe it could be one of the best years they will ever have.
And Szczesny, talking of stats and unbeaten runs, is now 22 games unbeaten in the Barcelona goal. And he's one away from matching Johan Cruyff's record of 23 games unbeaten to start your Barcelona career. Do you know who the top two are? Of the top two players, I don't know if you've seen this stat going around, the top two players to have started their Barcelona career without a defeat.
Top two? I don't know. I'm gonna have to guess, and I'm just gonna go with recency bias. I remember Aubameyang came in and Barca were brilliant for a while. Aubameyang? No.
You're kind of on like a right sort of track in terms of, I'll give you a clue. So the person that is second kind of was a signing that was queried at first and kind of became, I think it's fair to say, kind of had a kind of cult hero feel about him.
It's tough. The good thing about me not being good at quizzes is it lets people at home have the chance to think and find the answers themselves. Sometimes people do a quiz and someone answers straight away and it's no fun. You can't think about it.
I'll give you another clue. He was just at the club for one season. Brazilian midfielder.
Paulinho,
yeah. 25 games he went unbeaten at the start of his Barcelona career. If you think of that Valverde season, how they almost went unbeaten in the league that season. And obviously they went far. They obviously lost to Roma in the Champions League, but that's a long way down the line in the season. And number one is another midfielder who you should be very well acquainted with. 30 games he went unbeaten at the start of his Barcelona career.
Another midfielder I should be... Pedri?
No. Think back to the golden era. Or just the back of the golden era. The back end. Who came in to...
The back end, yeah.
Came in from England. Signed for Barca. Left for England.
Cesc Fabregas?
Different London clubs. Cesc Fabregas, yeah. 30 games unbeaten. That's the mark for Szczesny to aim for. If he avoids defeat against Borussia Dortmund on Tuesday, it will be the same as Cruyff, third on the podium. And then just Paulinho and Fabregas. I don't even know if these stats, like you say about the calendar year stat, it's not something I guess it is impressive that he's not lost a game in so many, but 4 starting your career, it's kind of semi-interesting, I guess.
Yeah, but I mean, I'm glad Tony's not here today because I need to talk about Szczesny, and I just... Look, I can't argue with the numbers, like you say, the unbeaten, the fact he's got so many clean sheets. I mean, but then in this game, he actually made probably, for me, that save from Altamira might be the best save he's made since being at the club. Altamira should have shot further away from him, and it was close to him, but he still sticks out his arm and he saves it from quite close range, quite a hard shot. I think it was a brilliant save. But that was the only save he had to make in the whole game. And also he got given man of the match by Movistar. And I was like, sometimes I'm just watching Szczesny and watching what's happening and just wondering what the hell is going on. Like, how is this happening? Like, is this just like a massive scam somehow? When this momentum ends and teams start creating more chances against Barca, is he just going to let in loads of goals and just not be the goalkeeper that Tony and many other people are saying he is?
I think the answer is not completely to do with Szczesny, because this is another thing people keep talking about. Like, what do you mean by when this momentum ends and people start conceding chances? I mean, Barca, I guess Atletico is the only outlier, but in general, Barca in their last 6 games have kept 4 clean sheets. I know, Real Betis are in good form. They're one of the teams that scored against them, but Osasuna, Atletico Madrid, Borussia Dortmund, Leganés, clean sheets in those 4 games. I don't know. I think more interesting is the Szczesny-Ter Stegen situation. We've got Ter Stegen now, who is absolutely on the cusp of being given the green light to return to action. I know for a fact that he hopes to be on the bench in the Copa del Rey final, if not before.
Wow. Yeah, but it could actually be the ideal situation for Szczesny. Like, don't live long enough to become the villain. Like, just go unbeaten, win a bunch of trophies, and then let Ter Stegen take the reins again.
Yeah. I know we've spoken about this at length, but I don't see Flick changing it. While things are going like this, I think it would have to take something drastic for him to bring Ter Stegen. It's a risk to bring Ter Stegen back in fitness-wise, there is an element to it. Not so much as a goalkeeper as it would be, a midfielder coming back from a long-term injury. But just, while things are going well, while they're keeping clean sheets, imagine it would be a hell of a call. It would be a hell of a call after the Szczesny one, which was perhaps an easier call. But if you think about how much sort of debate that generated at the time about Peña and Szczesny, to then switch to Ter Stegen, I don't think he would do it. I think you can keep Ter Stegen at bay until the end of the season. I don't think he'd be particularly happy not coming back into the team, but I think you can keep him on the bench with the way the team is playing and winning games and 24 unbeaten in all competitions.
Yeah, don't fix what isn't broken, I guess is the phrase. And things were very much broken at the point where Szczesny came into the team with Iñaki Peña. Not because Iñaki Peña was awful by any means, but things were broken, so Flick changed something. Right now things aren't broken, so don't change something.
Well, we spoke about this the other day. I don't know, maybe listeners would have a better idea, because like you say, it's not that Peña was making loads of mistakes and Szczesny's been making loads of saves, but the stats in terms of pure games, it's something that you can't judge. The stats in terms of points won, goals conceded, etc., have changed dramatically with Szczesny. It'd be interesting to know if someone has a theory or can explain why the effect that Chesney's had on that, in terms of whether it's to do with the confidence, the marshalling of the back line, certain little things.
We'll have to get if we get time, and I absolutely can't promise we will have time because the next months are mental. But we have to get our goalkeeper expert back to see if he's got any insight into why this is happening. When Chesney's not, it's not as if he's come in and made a bunch of saves. We analysed how many saves per game he made. It was it less than 3 or around 3? Per game?
I sent you the stats. Yeah, no, I think it's less than 3. Yeah, definitely less than 3 per game.
And quite often those are shots from 25 yards that have no chance of going in, really.
Moving on from Szczesny, but sticking with defence, Alejandro Balde went off in the first half. At the end of the first half against Leganés, he was replaced by Gerard Martin, who did okay against Leganés. We don't know how long Balde will be out, but even if he's out for 2 weeks, he's going to miss a chunk of games, given how thick and fast they're coming. Could be anywhere from sort of 2 weeks to 3 weeks. I know Barca aren't ruling him out of the Copa del Rey final at the moment, which is on April the 26th, 2 weeks after the day when he got injured. Seems, I'm not a doctor, for the record, I'm not a doctor. Seems a little bit tight for me, but I guess Barca aren't going to rule him out definitively because they want him to have that hope as well. They don't want to say, he's definitely out. So we'll see. He won't travel to Dortmund this week. Barca then have Celta Vigo and Mallorca at home. He won't be involved in either of those games, I would imagine. And then you've got...
See if Barca can find some good horse placenta anywhere.
Then you've got the Copa del Rey final, followed by Champions League semi-final first leg, potentially. Then you've got Real Valladolid, Champions League semi-final second leg. So yeah, it's looking like a little bit tough for Balde. What sort of confidence, Rick, do we have in Gerard Martin?
Well, I mean, more than we had in the past, but I'm not exactly brimming with confidence. I wasn't, I wouldn't lay into him for what he did on the weekend, but I wasn't that impressed when he came on. I think he gave the ball away. He did give the ball away a couple of times when Barca didn't need to give the ball away. Didn't really add a great deal. That said, he has improved since when he first came into the team and has put in some solid performances. I think he needs these next 2 games against Borussia Dortmund and Celta Vigo to sort of get a bit of momentum and maybe see his level. But I also wonder, I mean, someone suggested in the Discord, I can't remember who, I'm sorry, but suggested playing Gavi at left back. And at first I laughed at the idea. And I don't think it's something that you can just do. I think you'd need to work on it for a while in training. But I mean, that is, to be honest, I mean, this is more of a Gavi point than a Gerard Martin point. But the more I look at Gavi and the more I wonder about where he fits into this team, I don't think he really does. I don't think he's got a place that should be his in the team. I don't think he should be a regular starter. It kind of makes sense for him to become like a Sergio Roberto-esque figure capable of filling into different positions. He's got, as Gavi would say himself, he's got football. So he can put himself in a left back inverting into midfield position. But, not for the near term. But I just wonder if long term it makes sense for him to be versatile rather than to be... He's not going to be the 10 and he's not going to be one of the base midfielders, I don't think.
I'm not having Gavi at left back, or I don't think Flick will be having Gavi at left back. I'd rather see Rafinha at left back.
No. Let Rafinha be Ballon d'Or potential Rafinha on the wing.
For the record, I would not propose moving Rafinha to left back. It was just a point against Gavi at left back.
Yeah, well, I'm not saying Gavi should be at left back.
Let the record
right
show.
Now. But yeah, it's more. I don't even know if Gavi should be at left back. I don't. Probably shouldn't. But I do think the more strings he's got to his bow, the better for him, because it's harder for me to see where he fits long term.
The Gavi thing isn't, but this exact situation was something we spoke about earlier in the season, because Balde isn't Barca's best player. No one says he's their best player. But the drop-off between... And I know Barca would probably suffer more if they didn't have Lamine Yamal than if they didn't have Balde. But the drop-off generates more debate than any other position, I think. Because if Lamine Yamal gets injured, it's bad. But Ferran Torres comes in and plays on the right. And we're not talking about, is Ferran Torres good enough? Would he get found out against Dortmund, etc., if you know what I mean?
Well, Ferran Torres won't cost you goals
Same for the forwards. Midfield is obviously depth. Obviously, Gavi comes in. Centre-backs, obviously, Araujo comes in. Even at right-back, if Koundé's out, Araujo can probably play right-back. Left-back, we have had, like you say, maybe we're being a bit unfair on Martin because he has improved over the last few months. I think it's helpful that they've got this Borussia Dortmund game now with a cushion, because it's going to be it's still a big game. It's still a tough game, but it's a game where he won't be sort of massively penalised if he doesn't pass the test, if you know what I mean. He's not going to, in theory, I mean, these could be famous last words if we see a comeback for the ages, but in theory, he's going to face a Dortmund team who are going to be sort of, going all out for the game. It's going to be tough defensively for Barca, you'd have thought, at times. So it's a nice test for him with a safety net, a test with a safety net. And then he's got 2 home games, which is when he's fine in those games, in theory, against Celta Vigo and Mallorca. But obviously the big one would be the Copa del Rey final. Another player Tony mentioned is Jofre Torrent, who's a young player, but I don't think we're going to see him. He's not named in the squad for Dortmund. He may train with the first team and he may be sort of considered on the bench in those home games against Celta Vigo and Mallorca. But I think Flick will go full confidence in Gerard Martin, because that's what he's done all season. Gerard Martin has played 31 times for Barcelona this season. He's made 10 starts of those 31 games have been 10 starts. So yeah, I think he's going to stick with Gerard Martin. Now, the amount of times we've seen Flick and we thought, what could he do? What could he invent? Going very back to the first game of the season, and he's gone Bernal and Casado, or he's stuck in the youngster rather than try and sort of play someone out of position. Can you think of many times when he's played people out of position?
No, not a great deal. Not a great deal. Eric Garcia kind of, but maybe he is now a defensive midfielder. I don't know.
I mean, I guess that's kind of one, but he had played there before as well, hadn't he?
Not a lot, though. Xavi refused to do it for ages when it seemed like it's something he should be working on. But question for you, what do you think would happen if Gerard Martin either gets injured or, let's say, just plays really badly against Dortmund and Celta Vigo? Who would you put at left-back for the Clásico, for the Copa final?
If it gets to the point where you're going into the Copa final and there's absolutely no faith in Gerard Martin.
No faith, or he's just injured.
I don't know if you would probably have to do some sort of centre-back at left-back. Get Araujo into the team, and I don't know, but like these back fours that City play, you completely lose the attacking edge. But I don't know.
Well, you say that, but Gvardiol often plays at left back and scores 1 million goals.
Yeah, but Gvardiol has that attacking edge, doesn't he? I can't think of a Barca player that would have that attacking edge as a left back.
Yeah.
I don't know which. I don't know how you would do it, but if you had Koundé, I don't think you could do a back three, sort of shift Koundé in, because I don't think you could do Lamine Yamal as the right wing back. Rafinha would be fine as the left wing back. I think you stick with the same formation. So I think
it's too late to change formation.
I guess Hector Fort. I guess I'd play Hector Fort actually.
Hector Fort at left back. Yeah.
But I mean, I don't know. Martin would have to fall some way for Flick to consider Fort based on how much of a right back he considers him and how he's not using him at left back at all. Even though he did have those good games at left back under Xavi, including away at Atletico Madrid last season.
Yeah,
I don't know why I didn't think about. I think you just go Fort. You just stick with the system and put your faith in Fort. If Martin gets injured or you decide you have to make a change.
Fair.
Okay, then let's hear the ratings from Barcelona. Well, the wrong way around. Leganés 0, Barcelona 1.
Tech 8 out of 10. Like I said, only had one save to make, but he made it, and he made it very well. Jules Koundé 7, Araujo 5.5. It was taken off, like you say, because of maybe a quadriceps thing, but it could also just be a lie by Hansi Flick trying to. I think because Araujo wasn't having a particularly good game, and Barca looks better in the second half with Frenkie de Jong on the pitch. Inigo Martinez, I'm going to give him an 8 as well, mainly for that last gasp tackle to stop Munir going through. Because, actually, he was the one who was kind of skinned by Dani Rabah for the big chance that Leganés had. He couldn't keep up with Rabah, and that's where Leganés got their chance. For Balde, 6 out of 10, and then obviously taken off for Gerard Martin, who I'll give a 6 as well. I thought he was passable, but not great, like I said. Eric Garcia, 6.5. Pedri, 7. Frenkie came on, 7.5. Thought he was quite good. I thought Barca improved with him on the pitch, and he had a solid game. Lamine Yamal, 6.5. Fermin Lopez, 7. Rafinha, for me, Barca's best player. I'll give him, same as I gave to Tekken and Inigo, an 8. I thought he was good defensively, made a great interception, good in attack. He helped create the goal, and then Lewandowski, 6.
Okay, then Tuesday night, Barcelona away at Borussia Dortmund. They go there with a 4-0 lead. Rick, any danger, any concerns?
I feel like not danger to lose the game, although we saw obviously Liverpool beat Barca by that scoreline.
You mean lose the tie?
Yeah, but somewhat danger to lose the game, but not lose the tie. It would have to be an insane collapse, and I just think even if Gerard Martin is as bad as a Gerard Martin can be at his very worst, I feel like Barca still don't lose the tie. And then everyone else, maybe Flick will he will rotate. You imagine he'll start Gavi in the 10, for example, and maybe a couple of other rotations. I suspected when we spoke the other day that he would play a strong team against Leganés and then rest a few players against Dortmund. Maybe he'll be tempered a little bit by Balde's injury in that regard, because he doesn't want to make wholesale rotations. But maybe he'll still rest Lamine, for example, give Ferran a game, maybe on the left and Rafinha on the right, and Lewandowski up front. I think Barca should. I can imagine they could lose 3-2 or something like that, but I don't think they'll lose this tie.
How many times have we said maybe rest Lamine?
Yeah.
When was the last time they rested Lamine?
Yeah.
Obviously, that feeds into the thing like, well, eventually he has to rest him, but maybe he doesn't. And this game comes, I guess it'll depend. Like, you don't need to rest so much thinking in terms of Celta Vigo, because you've got, by the recent run standards, a decent little rest time. You play Tuesday night, fly straight back, Wednesday off, or Wednesday recovery. You can even have Thursday off, Friday prep. It's not too bad, the prep for Celta Vigo. I think here go Szczesny, Koundé, Kubasi. One doubt over Inigo Martinez, but probably Inigo Martinez. Gerard Martin, De Jong, Pedri, Gavi, Lamine, Lewandowski, Rafinha.
Yeah, I think the same, just with Ferran instead of Lamine. And I think the reason to rest him is not because of the turnaround being short or because blah, blah, blah. It's just minimising risk.
Well, yeah.
Lamine has played so much football, and I just feel like there's very little need to start him in this game when you've got a 4-0 advantage. Whereas I think starting him against Leganés, starting him against Celta Vigo, when you're fighting for LaLiga, it makes a lot of sense to me to play him in those games and give him the minutes.
That's a good point. So you wouldn't start Ferran Torres?
I would start him ahead of Lamine.
No, but you said Fermin.
No. Gavi instead of Fermin.
Gavi instead of Fermin and Ferran instead of...
Yeah, Ferran instead. Those are the changes, I think, those two. And Araujo maybe out for Kubasi, yeah.
I think if they play Kubasi and then you go Martinez, the only doubt is if Martinez has, obviously, just at his age and with his injury history, he's always slightly managing something, and that's why he had the weekend off the other week against, was it Real Betis when he had the weekend off, or someone else? So yeah, we'll see.
Yeah, I think it's better.
But anyway, we'll be back after Barcelona's game against Borussia Dortmund. Then they turn their attention to Celta Vigo in LaLiga on Saturday, and the games do not stop coming. Mallorca on the Tuesday, and then the Copa del Rey final the following Saturday. Stay positive.